Okay, so we all know the biblical stories, like Esther, Mary, and Ruth. But today we're gonna dive into a story, well, a figure, I guess you could say, that maybe isn't as well known, but her story is equally, if not more, powerful. We're talking about Tamar.
Oh, yeah, Tamar. Her story is, well, it's something else.
It really is. And for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at an excerpt. It's from this podcast script called Tamar, A Story of Strength and Justice. And it's from a podcast called History in the Making.
Oh, I know that one. It's good.
Yeah, it is. So, Tamar's story, well, it takes place in the Old Testament, and it's got all this stuff about family and betrayal and justice and resilience. And you know what? These themes are still, like, super relevant today, even after all this time.
You're not kidding.
So yeah, get ready for some serious twists and turns, because Tamar's story is one you won't forget, trust me.
It's a wild ride. So Tamar, right? Her story's found in the book of Genesis, chapter 38, I believe.
Right, chapter 38?
And she's the daughter-in-law of Judah. He's one of Jacob's 12 sons.
Ugh, yes, Judah. Big player in the whole, Israelite story. And this is where things start getting, well, dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Tamar ends up widowed, not just once, but twice.
Yeah.
Both her husbands, and Onan, they were Judah's sons, and they both die.
It's rough.
It's a tough break, right?
Okay.
So back then, ancient custom dictated that the surviving brother, he'd have to provide an heir for his dead brother.
Right.
But Judah, he hesitates. He doesn't follow through, which leaves Tamar in a really, really vulnerable spot.
I mean, you have to remember the whole concept of levirate marriage.
Yeah, levirate marriage?
It was like this practice in ancient Israel. If a man died and didn't have an heir, well, his brother, he was obligated to marry the widow.
Okay.
To, have a kid, an heir for his dead brother.
It's all about keeping the family line going, right?
Exactly. And, it also protected the widow socially.
I could see that.
So Judah not following this custom, well, it put Tamar in a really, really difficult position.
Definitely. It wasn't just about, having an heir. It
Yeah.
was her whole security, her future. Everything was kind of up in the air.
Absolutely. And you know what makes Tamar's story so, so interesting? It's how she responds to this whole situation. She doesn't just sit back and, accept what's happening.
I bet she doesn't.
No, she doesn't. What she does next is, well, it's pretty unbelievable. Let's just say that.
Oh, come on. You can't just leave us hanging like that. Give us a little more.
Okay. So Tamar, right, she knows that Judah isn't going to give her a brother-in-law to, fulfill the whole levirate marriage thing.
Yeah.
So she comes up with this plan. And it's a bold one, a risky one, to be honest.
Ooh, this is where I can imagine people back then maybe clutching their pearls a little.
Maybe more than a little.
Right. Okay, so what does she do? Spill it.
All right. She disguises herself as a prostitute.
No way.
Oh, yeah. And then, well, she kind of positions herself where she knows Judah's going to pass by.
That is bold.
Oh, it gets even better. He doesn't even recognize her.
That's incredible. You gotta have nerves of steel to pull something like that off. But, I mean, wouldn't that have been super dangerous for her?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Back then, it was a
Yeah.
patriarchal society, right? So women, they didn't have a lot of rights, not a lot of protection.
Yeah.
I mean, if she was found out, if they knew she was a prostitute, she could be, like, totally ostracized. Maybe even worse.
It makes you wonder, what was she thinking? What was going through her head?
Right. But that's what makes Tamar's actions so remarkable. She was ready to risk it all.
Yeah.
Everything. Just to make sure she had a future.
Okay, so what happens next? Does Judah ever find out?
He does. Eventually. And, well, his first reaction, it's exactly what you'd expect from someone in his position.
Oh, I can imagine.
Anger. He's ready to have her punished,
Yeah.
without even realizing his own part in it all.
That's got to be some kind of irony, right? Someone judging without knowing the whole story.
Classic case.
Mm.
But here's where the story takes a turn.
Okay, I'm listening.
They have this confrontation, right?
Mhm.
And Tamar, well, she shows him something. It's proof. Proof that Judah's the father.
Sure, she had proof, like some ancient paternity test or something. I'm hooked.
Well, not a paternity test like we have today.
Yeah.
But she kept some things, stuff Judah had given her as a pledge when they, met.
Oh, okay.
And when she shows him this stuff, well, Judah, he has to admit it.
Yeah.
He has to admit what he did, that he played a part in all this.
Whoa. I bet that was a humbling moment for Judah. He goes from wanting to punish her to, well, admitting he was wrong. Talk about a plot twist.
It really is. It's like a moment of truth,
Yeah.
And it shows you how Tamar was thinking. She wasn't just reacting. She had a plan, and she made it work. She made Judah take responsibility.
I mean, and all of this happening in a society where women, they were supposed to be silent, right? It makes you think, was this just about her and her future, or was there something else going on? Like, was she challenging the whole power structure?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? On the one hand, she's using the system, the Levirate marriage rules,
Right.
to her advantage. But she's also exposing the problems with that system, the hypocrisy.
Like she's saying, you might think you're in control, but I can play this game too and win.
Exactly.
Well,
And what she did, it didn't just affect her. This is about the whole lineage of the Israelites. One act of defiance, and it echoes through generations.
okay, so Tamar, she outsmarts Judah. He has to admit he's wrong, and she's safe. But wait, there's more, right?
Well, there's definitely more to this story.
Yeah.
So Tamar, she has twins,
Twins, okay.
Perez and Zerah.
Therese and Zerah.
And this is where, well, if you know about the Israelites and their lineage, this is where it gets super interesting.
Hold on, hold on. Are you saying there's a connection between Tamar and, like, someone really important?
Oh, yeah. More than just someone important. So Perez, one of her sons,
Yeah.
right? He becomes a direct ancestor of King David.
No way. King David. You mean, like, the King David?
The King David,
Yeah.
legendary king of Israel.
You're kidding, right?
Nope. Totally serious. And, well, if you think about it, King David is a key figure in the line leading to Jesus.
Wow.
So Tamar's story, it's like woven into Christianity itself.
Wow, talk about a legacy. It's like she's this hidden figure.
Right?
And what she did, well, it had these huge ripple effects throughout history. I wonder if the people who wrote this story, if they knew how important it would become.
Well, that's something scholars have debated for, like, forever.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, Tamar's story, even though it's tucked away in Genesis, it's had a huge impact.
Yeah.
It makes you think about who we remember, who we celebrate, and who we just forget about.
It's like she's this quiet force, working behind the scenes, but in the end, she shapes history.
Exactly. And it's not just about, who came from who.
Right.
It's about so much more than that. It's about resilience, about challenging the rules, about fighting for justice when society tries to silence you, especially women.
It's like she took this ancient law, the whole lineage marriage thing, which was supposed to protect women, but, well, it could also be used to control them, and she flipped the script.
Totally. She used this system to show its flaws,
Yeah.
to demand they be accountable, to secure her own future. It's a story that, well, I think it speaks to anyone who's ever been marginalized, overlooked, silenced.
It's also a story that makes you think about right and wrong. It's not so simple, right?
Right.
I mean, what Tamar did, the disguise, the deception, it was pretty extreme. But can we really judge her
Yeah.
knowing what she was up against?
Right. That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do the ends justify the means?
Hmm.
Tamar, she was living in a system that didn't offer her a lot of choices.
Yeah.
What she did, some people might see it as scandalous.
Yeah.
But in the end, she just wanted justice. She needed to make sure she and her family had a future, in a society that didn't really care about women in her position.
I think that's what's so great about this story.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you easy answers. It makes you really think about these hard questions, and that's why it still matters, even thousands of years later.
I agree. It makes you think about power dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
about, what society says is okay and what's not, and how people, especially women, how they navigate those systems, or, sometimes how they turn them upside down.
So what can we learn from Tamar's story today? I mean, what are the takeaways we can use in our own lives?
Well, I think, first of all, it reminds us that even when things seem impossible, you still have choices. You can still act. You can shape your own life.
Mhm.
I mean, Tamar could have just, accepted things. She could have lived a life of, poverty and obscurity.
Which she didn't.
She didn't. She refused to be a victim.
Right.
She took control. She wrote her own story.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful message for all of us.
Yeah.
We might not have the same struggles as Tamar, but we all face times when we feel powerless, overlooked, like no one's listening.
Right, exactly.
Her story tells us that we don't have to just accept that.
Mhm.
We can be strategic. We can be resourceful. We can speak up and demand justice and make things change.
It's also a reminder that sometimes the biggest changes come from the most unexpected places. Tamar, she could have been forgotten, but she ends up playing this crucial role in the lineage of, well, some of the most important figures in history.
Yeah.
It's like her story is proof that anyone can make a difference. It doesn't matter who you are or what your circumstances are. It also reminds us that history is full of these hidden figures, people whose stories we don't know or haven't fully appreciated.
And that's why it's important to, dig deeper, to look beyond the surface, to uncover these stories that haven't been told.
Yeah.
Because they can teach us so much about resilience, about courage, about what it means to be human.
Tamar's story might be ancient, but its message, it's timeless. It's a story that speaks to us today, that inspires us, that makes us look at the world in a new way. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Tamar's extraordinary life, so let's think about this. What does Tamar's story mean for people today?
It's like looking in a mirror,
Yeah,
All those struggles for equality, for being recognized, it's still happening.
it is.
Like, think about equal pay or reproductive rights, even just, having people listen to you. It's all kind of connected to what Tamar went through.
And it's not just about the big, huge issues either.
No, no.
Tamar's story, it's about having control over your own life,
Yes.
about not letting others define you or limit you. It's about being brave enough to say, no, I want more than this.
Right. And it shows us that fighting for justice, well, it's not always easy. It's not always clear what to do.
Definitely not.
It takes, strategy.
Yeah.
And resilience. And sometimes you got to bend the rules a little.
Like Tamar did.
Exactly. I
Uh-huh.
mean, her story, it's not a fairy tale.
Right.
It's about struggle. It's about outsmarting the system, a system that wasn't on her side.
Not at all.
But she comes out of it, as this incredibly strong person. Not because she's, like, physically powerful,
No, no.
but because she's smart,
Mm.
strategic,
Yeah.
and she never gave up on what she wanted.
And that's what makes this story so captivating.
Right.
It's not about being perfect or always following rules. It's about survival,
Yeah.
doing what you got to do.
Tamar's legacy, it's not just, who her descendants were.
It's bigger than that.
It's how she lived. She refused to be a victim. She took charge. She demanded respect. And in doing that, she created her own destiny. She reminds us that we can do the same.
We get caught up in the history, but really her story is universal. It's about having control, being resilient, fighting for what's right. Those things, they matter to everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Her story might be from Genesis, an ancient text,
Right. Yeah.
but what it's about, it's as relevant as ever.
Yeah. So as we finish this deep dive into Tamar's amazing life, we'll leave you with this. What choices will you make? What bold moves will you make to write your own story, to fight for a world that's more just, more fair? Remember, just like Tamar, you have the power to leave your mark on the world. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.